Hi, I'm Solara Star and welcome to the Solara Star podcast. With over 20 years of experience, I've had the privilege of working with thousands worldwide and sharing my expertise across various media platforms. This podcast is your go-to resource for mastering manifestation and unlocking your ultimate magnetism. Hit subscribe so you never miss an episode, and let's dive in. And a very, very warm welcome back. Solara here. I've got a massive grin on my face because today we're doing something a little bit different. I am joined by a very beautiful soul who has been with me over many ups, downs, ins and outs, trials and tribulations, and really amazing times too over the last, I think we decided it was like 6 years all in all. And boy, a lot has happened in those 6 years. And she's a very special soul that brings so much love and wisdom that I thought it would be really nice for us to have a good old chin wag and share some of that wisdom, with the aim that some of the challenges that Susan's had to navigate and the wisdom and the gifts that she's extracted from those will help you wherever you are. But it may even be some wisdom that will help you connect the dots of things that have happened to change how things evolve as you move forward. So the reason why we ended up recording this conversation is because as I was on my walking pad, we were having such a good chat. And I was like, you know what? There is so much here that I know will make a difference to the listeners on my podcast. Hence now this actually one of our chin wags, but a chin wag that is now reaching all the four corners of the globe. I can't believe just how much this has grown. So thank you for all of your support and all the likes and the shares. It's very, very much appreciated. And we decided that rather than keeping the conversation between us, we're going to share it, as I've already said. So before we dive in, I'd really love to hand over to Susan. So Susan, you can just introduce yourself, a little bit about who you are, about what you do. And before we do that, actually, I just want to say a massive thank you to you, because without Susan, all my technical abilities, which are pretty much near to zero, Susan has held me over the years, not just technically, emotionally, spiritually. And Susan has played a significant role in the materialization of my book, which is being published on the 9th of June. Massively invested in helping me, especially in the earlier parts of the manuscripts. And it would not be anywhere it is today without you, Susan. So I just want to say thank you before you come on and introduce yourself.
And you are more than welcome. It's been an amazing journey, and I am so, so proud of you that this book is coming out on the 9th of June. It's been a journey, but it's been an amazing one as well. And that was part of some of the conversation that we were having that sparked off a lot of this in the first place. But yeah, so I'm Susan Francis, and I'm a mindset and self-leadership coach for women in business. And that's been a bit of an evolutionary journey, which is going to come out probably a bit more in this conversation today. But I've been in coaching and online space since 2004, which was like absolutely ages ago now. And yeah, it has been an incredible journey, and I didn't know what I was stepping into and the road that I was stepping onto at that time. So for me, as much as that's been about me creating a business and doing the work that I do with people, it's been an incredible personal development journey, and one that I didn't know that that's what it was in the first place when I was actually deciding to do what I wanted to do and to just do something that really, I stepped into this because I wanted to do something that really lit me up, and but that also helped other people. And it's been a crazy ride, but it's also been, I think, it has deepened my spiritual journey. It's really highlighted that spiritual journey. And I think that that's the thing that we're often really unaware of, is that underneath the business, that's what underpins it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many initiations along the pathway of running your own business, isn't there? There's so many opportunities to look at the metaphorical mirror of what the business is showing us about ourselves, about where we are, where our limiting beliefs are, where there's opportunities for healing and for growth on deeper levels. And only when the business expands its own consciousness is a direct reflection of the inner work that we've done to get it there. So it's an amazing reflective vessel, would you say?
Oh, absolutely. And because of the work that I do, I mean, over those years, I've done a lot of work with supporting women in their business, creating their business, designing their business, and actually getting it out there in the world. And some of that has been doing technical stuff behind the scenes and assisting them with that, as you kind of said earlier. But as well as that, it's been about helping them to really work out what it is that they want to do and bringing forth what's inside of them during that time. And I can't count the number of people that I've worked with doing that. But it's really shown me one thing, and that is that it is a massive, I always say now the journey of being an entrepreneur is the biggest personal development journey you're ever going to put yourself on. If you
Mm.
don't know that from the start. And I equate it, we spoke about those kind of, the different things that you go through. I almost equate it to a bit like playing a computer game, when you sort of go along and you're collecting the rings or whatever, and you're collecting the things, and then and you're going through different levels, and then you have to do a boss level. And you
Yeah.
can't move forward, further forward until you've beat the boss, if you like. So which
Yeah.
is why I often, when I'm talking to people, it's like, right, come on, we're going to boss this now. What's going on really underneath
Mm.
this? What's going on here? Because you move each level that you come to, and each bit of growth, and each level that you go through in your business journey. We bring every part of ourselves to it, don't we? We don't compartmentalize ourselves to go, oh, this is the business me, and this is the me behind the scenes me. We bring every part of ourselves to it, and it is who we are. It uncovers more layers of that onion. It shows us more of ourselves. So it is absolutely a mirror for what's going on inside of us.
I love the way that you say about the computer game. That's a metaphor I use. It was actually Sonic the Hedgehog. It's the only one I ever
Yeah,
really played
yeah,
and was able to get through. But it's super frustrating. Let's run with that because I love that. Because if you think about the different levels of life and where we are right now, there's a higher level that we want to reach. And many people, and I certainly know I've been there before, is complaining and just kind of want it all handed to me on a plate. Like why do I have to go through so much, I don't know, like stress sometimes and frustration and impatience in order to unlock those next levels. But that's all part of collecting the rings and kind of
yeah,
ducking from the ghoulie, or I don't know if it's called ghoulie, but you know what I mean. But the sense of pride and celebration once those levels have broken through, it makes all of that hard work worth it. So I love that you use that as a metaphor. Thank you. And it's not just in business, that's just life. That's just personal development per
yeah,
se, right? You're
absolutely.
always going to get to the level where you got that final test where you are stretched and pushed and you're just about to give up and you finally make that breakthrough.
Yeah. And do you know what? If we want to stick with that analogy just for a moment, and when you were saying that, it's also knowing what things to drop and what things to let go of. And I think some of that it's that external validation, isn't it, as well? We can get so caught up in what the industry is saying, what's being put out there on social media or whatever. And we're almost taught, and I think not just in business, but in life, that some sort of measure of success is the things that you collect, whether that be accolades or whether that be money or whatever.
Mm.
A lot of stuff, a lot of people, it's kind of ingrained in us or put in front of us that to measure that success, it's by measuring the money you've got, how much you're earning. And so it's almost like, as I say, sticking to that metaphor of the rings, we're trying to collect those rings as though we're sort of, I'm moving up a ladder in some way, or I'm
Yeah.
doing something where I'm collecting all of these rings and I'm collecting these things. But actually, none of that really matters. It's the journey, the internal journey we go on, and the way that we identify with all of that, and being able to evolve that identity and know what to let go of. So when I think of Sonic, because that's the one I think of when I use that
Yeah.
analogy, you do think of collecting the rings, and you drop the rings and you've got to go back and you're trying to scrabble them all together. But actually, that's only getting you to the boss level anyway.
Yes.
And we drop these things and we go and pick up others instead, or
Mm.
but we're all trying to gather these things up, and it's actually got nothing to do with that. I think
Mm.
that's part of the lesson in what you can let go of and what you can put
Yeah.
down,
What's worth your
instead of trying
energy?
to keep hold of all of these things.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that that in itself is part of the game, isn't it? It's like, I love the metaphor of life being one big game, and it's an opportunity for strength training and resilience, and more important, with purpose and meaning. And I think about the also the universal laws. the kind of laws and the rules that govern things. And we're not born with this understanding. We're having to figure it out. And I'm thinking, like, I'm 50 now, and it's taken many years of just getting to the point of even just understanding this, and now understanding how to work with these laws and the opponent, as you would have an opponent in a game of football or basketball or whatever it might be, is very important part of the evolution process, because without an opponent, there would be no game, there would be no purpose, you wouldn't be able to win anything. It would just be empty and dull and meaningless. So we have to have the opponent to stretch us, sometimes bring us to our knees, sometimes beyond limits we ever thought we could handle, in order to learn lessons and to grow. And sometimes those lessons are things like compassion and empathy and patience and trust and abundance and whatever it might be. So the opponent in a physical game is similar to the opponent that we have, but the opponent we have is inside. In the game of Sonic, of course, it's the ghoulies and the things that blast you out of space, or
Yeah.
whatever it might be. And I think the key thing that I've learned, I'd be interested to know what the key thing you've learned, but one of the key things I've learned through that is you grow through what you go through, which is very, very important. But actually, the opponent, aka our own ego, so it's actually ourselves, the opponent is inside of ourselves, is the most important part. And without it, we wouldn't make it to these higher levels, because it does push and stretch us. And I like what you said before. Sometimes we have to just let go of certain parts of ourselves that are holding on to something that might be through fear or need or greed. But I'm sure this is going to now spark a massive conversation.
Yeah, because all of that stuff, what happens is over those years, as we know, right way back to from childhood and way back even before that, but these things start to form our identity. And so we do find it difficult to let go of those things. But actually, sometimes if they become the drivers, then we're constantly trying to drive, and we're evolving on one hand, but we're still having the same old drivers that keep us, that are underneath, keeping us, pulling us back, and not enabling us to just be who we truly are. And I don't think there's ever that one point. There's not meant to be that one point that we get to. It's meant to be a continual evolution, and a continually letting go, and letting go, bringing in, and moving through. But I think we can also be at that point where we think, when do we get to the point where it's just easy?
Yeah.
But that's never meant to just be like that. You are meant to have the ebbs and the
Yeah.
flows. Those lessons are the things that can help us to move through them with more ease.
Yeah. And I think we can, and I certainly can only speak really from my own experience. We can make it easier for ourselves, because the certain things that I was doing that were fueled by fear or the need for validation or the need to be seen, or, that feeling of not feeling safe in life, therefore making decisions to try and create that feeling of safety that was lacking. So kind of kept me almost like oscillating and preemptive striking, without actually really experiencing what true creation and true manifesting is all about. And I think that's the thing. I would quite often make my own life extremely difficult because of my unresolved issues. And I've definitely not nailed all of them. And I know that for sure, because I still get triggered. But I now know triggers are the doorway to these next levels. So I think that's, again, really important to bring forward and to emphasize that it's us. And that reminds me a little bit about before we hit record today. With the book publishing, I was saying to Susan about that I hadn't even thought about a book launch. And it's not because I didn't want to do a book launch. I'm just at a point right now where not everything feels, that sounds a bit hectic, but unless something feels really light, my system is almost like not wanting to go to it. And I sat there in self-inquiry. It's like, this is like probably one of the most mammoth points in my life. And I'm not celebrating the launch of my book with a few loved ones and some friends and people who've been a significant part of the journey. Why am I not doing that? And it's like, because it feels like it would be too much effort. Now, not effort from the perspective, it feels, I want everything to feel easy. That's where I got to. And if it doesn't feel easy, then I don't want to do it. So sometimes I will go into not doing something because it doesn't feel easy. But I called myself out on this in the most positive way. And it was like, well, what would make it easy? And it's like, well, just sitting down and writing out a guest list of, people who have played that significant role. Great. And what else? Well, probably just going and buying some really nice canapes or something from Marks and Spencer's just to make sure that people have nibbles and drinks. Great. And nothing else you need to do. It's like, we'll just send out a nice message and a couple of invites. And it started feeling easy on my system. I think I've made so much harder for myself over the years. But when I ask myself the question, how can I make this easy? How can I make this fun? It changes the vibration of everything. So, of course, it's all organized now and I'm really excited. But would you agree with that? Have you
That's
made things harder?
right, absolutely. I mean, if I think back across all the things, if I even realised that this is a spiritual journey and therefore there's things too, when stuff comes up, I have a look at it. I mean, I'm very much now, okay, I'm feeling a little way about that. Let me have a look at that. Let me go within. I think there's a kind of a rite of passage. We look outside for things to give us the answer. And actually, I think we then get to a point when we're like, it is all within, and it is all about that self-exploration. And where am I identifying with something in a certain way that says I've got to be a certain way or do things in a certain way? And then it starts to feel hard, because it's not about, we then realize that's about something external and not really what we want inside. And if I look back over the years, coming right the way back to childhood, without going right into all this detail, it's always been about having a way to survive, having a way to feel secure, having a way to feel wanted or needed, because being wanted or needed made me feel like I was then important, and therefore that was I could feel secure in my role in different people's lives in different ways.
Mm.
And then it was getting to a point of letting go of all of that and what actually do I want. So a lot of times, yeah, things were harder for me because I was trying to maintain that identity
Because it was
of
feeding.
feeling, obviously there's layers underneath that, feeling needed or feeling wanted or feeling important, because it's about who am I if I'm not important to somebody else or needed in this way? Who actually am I? And not knowing that, and if you don't know that, then you start to feel insecure with you're insecure in your place in the world. And it's about
Then drive other behavior as well.
absolutely. And that can kind of come from that survival mode of always having to be the one that's got your own back and having to be the one
Mm,
that's covering all the bases and dealing with everything. And that became so much a part of my identity.
mm.
Most of my stuff has been about unraveling that and letting go of that so that my true identity can come forward.
I really love that. And I'm even more so with this beautiful garden, but I'm really learning a lot from nature and the weeding and the seeding.
Mm.
You spend all of your life weeding, you just get kind of lost in the kind of drudgery and the negative of everything, and you don't really see the beauty and the opportunity for growth and expansion. But equally, if you're just constantly focusing on growth and expansion, you're missing the opportunity of the weeding in order to create more space for more seeds,
Yeah.
etc., etc. And I've learned a lot. This is really interesting. It's coming into my mind. I've learned a lot about repotting plants. So I'm just going
All
to
right.
share with you plant wisdom. Not like plant medicine, but plant wisdom. I've got this plant and it's been struggling for some time, and it's great. It's kind of really spindly, and the leaves, they're not really flourishing. It's not abundant in its growth. And as I was taking, I thought it needs repotting. And as I was taking it out of the pot and putting it into a new pot, I noticed just how compressed all the roots were, and how it was probably fighting for the roots to breathe and to expand and to grow. And I almost felt the relief of the plant as I put it into this new, bigger pot. And then as I was cutting down some of the stems, I felt bad because I was thinking, well, there's hardly anything there right now. And if I take away some of these, it's really going to not really be anything at all. And then I was reminded, actually, you have to clip it back in order for it to grow more. You have to get rid of the dead stems and the dead leaves. And then what I've noticed as I went to go and look at it today, it's grown so many more beautiful leaves. But I had that tiny bit of fear that if I chop away some of the dead stuff, well, not that it was dead, some of the spindly stuff, it wasn't going to grow again. So what I've been learning from the pot plant is, yes, now it's in a bigger pot, it can grow and it can expand. So sometimes we need to move from one environment into another in order to grow and to flourish. And in order to do that, we've got to cut away the dead in order for more life to form. So there's my wisdom from repotting plants.
And that's wonderful. And actually, as you were saying that and talking about plants, I used to be somebody that had pot plants everywhere, loads and loads of plants. And then I realized I'd moved out of that space because it felt like really hard to also be looking after something else. And although I've got sort of lovely things around me, I've noticed this year that not a lot of them are living things in the respect of like
Okay.
plants. And I was reminded I always had loads of plants around me. And
Yeah.
funny enough, that's one of the things that I've sort of said to myself, I need to bring some more of that in now to be able to, because I feel now that I have that space, because I've shed so much. I mean,
Mm.
my last couple of years have been going through almost like a bit of, because it is a bit of a grieving process when we do some of this as well. We have to do it gently. We can't just go and cut something out of our lives or whatever. It's a gentle process because as we do it, first of all, there's obviously the realization of something. Then there's the kind of gradually as you start observing it, you get to let pieces of it go.
Yeah.
And then there's almost like a, right, okay, I see what this is now. I'm willing to let this go. And then noticing when things, parts of it keep coming back. So it is a gradual process with anything. It's not just a, oh, I see that now, it's gone. But
Yes.
what I've noticed is because I've just come out of a period of doing that, I'm now ready to bring more things into my space that I can nurture
That's
and
such
that
an amazing
do make me
sign.
feel good.
Yes, I really love that, and I wonder, I really relate to that without going too much into it. I can't even tell you how many plants I've got, and I'm loving looking after them, and they're really responding as well to my love of looking after them. But I was the same as you. I had more fake plants, and then to make
Yeah,
myself feel a bit better from a feng shui perspective, I just put a bit of soil from outside in them because it was meant to energetically do something. So I really hear what you're saying, and as you were talking, I thought, you inspired a thought in my mind. You got to let go to let it grow.
yeah,
And I was like, that is such an amazing takeaway. So I guess as far as the listeners are concerned, what is it that you are holding on to? What is dead? What is ready to be reborn? What is it? Where are you now being called to move into a different environment in order to let yourself grow and expand a bit like the roots of that plant? I think that's quite significant. And like, I loved what you said there, Susan, as well. Like, that does come, it is painful. Like, cutting away, let's just use the symbology of the plant, cutting away some of the stems and some of the leaves and stuff like that. Yeah, not that I want to cause the plant pain. And plants don't have nervous systems like we do, but they do respond. Like, experiments have shown how they do respond to that. But sometimes you have to short term pain for long term gain, and letting go of things and severing things that were significant in your life, that is painful, and there's no easy way of doing it. So it's quite normal to experience that, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely. And and sometimes we don't even realize that that is what we're having to do. Because if somebody said to you straight off, off the bat, well, you're going to have to let go of that, then obviously all the reasons why we need to keep hold of it
Mm.
come up. And we have to then look at those things from an internal perspective as to what it is that we're actually holding on to uh, in order to be able to let it go. Because that doesn't mean to say that you have to let go of, if we're talking in terms of people, it doesn't mean to say you have to, well, that's it, I'm never speaking to you ever again. But we have to
Mm.
let go of what it is that the attachment and seeing why we're feeling that need, what that is doing for us. What are we holding on to? And then it shifts as we start to see those things. We can shift it. We can still have the relationship if that's what it is, but it will shift and change. We can still have certain things else, but just
Mm.
once we find our energy around it and our attitude towards it and I suppose, the need for it and the ego attachment to it shift,
Mm.
then it can all shift and grow. And you can find sometimes that something that you thought you needed to let go of just grows in a different way and expands into a different way.
I I just love that. That's so inspiring because I see so many people. in my coaching practice that they just cut people off, and there's no need for that. Sometimes it absolutely is, right? There's times that it is needed and times that actually it's more about what is that person mirroring as part of your own pain cycle, as part of your own healing. Like, do you actually need to let that person go, or is it letting an emotion go that that person is bringing up and mirroring back to you, so the relationship can still continue, but it's healthier because it's not driven by some of the need to people please or keeping someone there because you're feeling guilty or too scared to say no, which is really interesting because as you're talking as well, I'm thinking about what have I been to let go of lately. And what I'm noticing is I'm listening to my own inner compass a lot more. Whereas before I may have had the feeling, but not followed it because of the fear of upsetting somebody, fear of feeling guilty, fear of person not liking me. But then what I'd be doing is abandoning myself along the way and saying other people's needs are way more important than mine. Of course, that then creates a whole host of knock-on effect from an energetic perspective too. But where it's shown up more for me, and I'd be interested to know where you've been called to do something similar, is in my coaching practice. Whereas before, I mean, I can pretty much work with a whole host of different types of people. And I love that. But it's not always the best magnetism and the best aligned. And what I've been doing lately is really sitting and listening whenever I have a consultation with somebody. And it's like, actually, do I feel like there's a synergy here? Because my clients work so much better when I'm also energized and excited to come to the call to help them too. So how am I feeling about this connection? Whereas before, my fear would be, how are they feeling about working with me? Am I good enough? And now it's a complete 360. So I've actually turned more more people in different, not turned them away, but signposted in different directions because I haven't felt that synergy and that alignment. Nothing wrong with them. Absolutely beautiful people. I just want to make sure I'm of best service, and I'm of best service when I'm lit up and feeling invested and excited to work alongside them. Now, years ago, I've liked the concept of it, but the actual thought of doing that would be really scary because I was being so driven by subconscious beliefs and wounds that I didn't recognize. So now when I do this, I don't want to cause anybody hurt, harm, or upset, but I know if I was to work with them for the wrong reasons, it would indirectly end up causing that anyway. So that's something I'm growing through at the moment. I'd be really interested to know, where are you really listening to your own inner compass? Where are you really honoring yourself more than you ever have?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we look in terms of business first of all, because there are a couple of different things come up when you asked me that question and when you were talking as well. So listen, I'm always one about being honest and real, and I do think a lot of these things are a rite of passage that we go through, especially in business. Okay, well, in life, anyway. But this is because this is a business example. I'm referring to it as a business thing, and I think when we first start out, like you say, there's that feeling of, am I going to be good enough? This is something that I love and I believe in, but am I actually good enough? If I put my head above the parapet, can somebody shoot me down and say, no, you're wrong. You know, you've not got it. So there's that whole comparison thing and that feeling about being good enough. But if we're truly honest, we've all taken on clients because we needed the money.
Mhm.
At some point, we've all done that because we've had this fear of, oh, I've got to be able to sustain myself within this. And
Yes.
guarantee we've taken them on for the wrong reason. We just wanted to have some clients, or we want whatever it is. Definitely a rite of passage, and I think it's always good to be honest about that. We've all done that at some point.
Yeah.
Um, but those are the ones that always end up going a bit scary.
Aren't they?
Person never really gets them. It's because our intuition is
Yeah.
we know when we're say, however that might be, having a discovery call or whatever it might be, having the initial conversation with that person,
Yeah.
know that something isn't energetically aligned. We get a twinge, we don't quite feel there's something going on, but we feel it physically.
Yeah.
We
But we ignore
always
it.
feel it physically and we ignore it because there's something else
Yeah.
that's the need in us, and we're
Yeah.
coming from our need. It's not that we don't want to help that person, and it's not that we're not capable of helping that person,
Or
but it's some,
invested.
or invested in. Yeah, we're not just going, give me your money, and I'm not going to actually really
Yeah.
help you. Absolutely not. but there's a need in us that's rising up slightly, and our identity
Survival.
around it. So
Yeah.
that we've then gone and worked with that person and continued it on, even though something physically
Mm,
twinged somewhere in our body in that first moment. We've done it. We've all done it. And that
mm,
it will always be the one that becomes a problem. Either the person doesn't really put the work in, or they're not showing up for calls, or calls get extended, or something there. It's just not aligned. And there's always that point when we go, I knew this was going to go this way. I
mm,
knew this one, but we don't listen to ourselves. And that's a business example of that. But we
mm,
do that with so many things, whether that's accepting an invitation to go somewhere that you don't really want to go to. You know, there's something in you that says, I'm not really up for this, or it doesn't really feel, or we go along to something for the wrong reasons. And I've really learned over the years that to listen to myself and to really check in with myself about how I'm feeling. And now I'm quite happy, even if I've accepted an invitation for something a month before or 2 months before. If
mm,
it's up and there's something around that I'm not feeling aligned with, I'm quite happy to say, actually, I'm not going to come now,
mm.
or for whatever reason, and be okay about that. And it's something, I can't remember who said this, but it really hit me a long time, a few years ago. Might have been Maya Angelou, a little where I'd seen something. No, it wasn't. It was Whoopi Goldberg, actually, where she said one of the things that her mother had said to her when she was younger, or her aunt or somebody, was, you, at times you are going to make decisions in your life and choices that are right for you, but that other people won't be happy with. And the biggest thing you can learn in life is to be okay with that.
I love that. It reminds me a bit of the Mel Robbins let them theory. You know, if they wanted to,
Yeah,
they will, you know, that she says
yeah,
loads of.
yeah,
There's a few things you've mentioned here that I just want to jump in so I don't lose that, because there's
yeah,
going to be way more and I'm going to be like, oh, when with everything that you're saying. I remember learning this valuable lesson when I was working closely with Yehuda. For those of you who are new to the show, I was studied the Kabbalah for many, many years. Absolutely beautiful soul, but great, great wisdom. And he was the one that alerted me to when things explode. It's usually to do with the energy that we went into something with. Because, and now this is another quote which wasn't related to him, but this is what I've written down as we've been talking. The energy you come from determines where you're going. So if you are saying yes when you mean no, if you're looking for validation or seeking, and we might not know this consciously, it might be a subconscious driver but anything that explodes is always because the energy that is in it, the seed energy is tainted or lower vibrational in some way or another. So I was not forced to, invited to look at why things kept exploding in my life. And I used to go through a fair bit of it. And that was a massive invitation for me to have a really long, hard look at what my energy was that I was putting into things. And it was a whole host. It was a soup of things. It was fear. It was insecurity. It was need for validation, need to be seen, worrying about what people think. It was a whole host of things that would drive absolutely everything. And it tangled me into living a life that was actually quite dishonest. Because when we say yes, when we mean no, when we have a feeling against something and we don't follow it, we're not being honest with ourselves. We're not being honest with other people. And that is something that completely derails us from being in the universal flow of abundance and peace and freedom and all the stuff that comes with that. So when we can become aware of these aspects of ourselves, which are making life hard, which are sabotaging, and we don't beat ourselves up. We don't judge ourselves. We don't criticize ourselves. We come to ourselves with love and compassion for those parts that felt they had to do that in the first place. And we recalibrate, learn to be honest, which is exactly what we're talking about amongst other things. Life changes. I don't know about you, but I've noticed so many amazing opportunities open up for me when I've cleaned myself up, my own energy. So you've inspired all of that. So thank you.
and it starts with being honest with ourselves, doesn't it? But sometimes we have to just sit with that. I can try to avoid so much and jump to the other side. But actually, it's the sitting with it and really kind of go, okay, what is actually going on for me right now? What am I actually feeling? And if that is something that makes you feel sad, that you feel, it's by sitting with it and allowing it that we can start to alchemize it and move forward and move through it.
Yes. I tell you, one of the biggest things that helped me was knowing what my core values were. I hadn't done any core value work. I mean, I'm similar to you. I'd been on this journey since like, well, I first picked up the book, The Secret, 2006, but a couple of years before that, there was another author that had referred to all of that kind of stuff. So similar time to you. And I don't know why I went off on that tangent then. What were you saying before that? Where were we? Who are
Right.
we? Why am I here?
I was saying about really sitting with it and
Yeah.
understanding and being honest with ourselves first.
Yes. I'm sure it's gonna drop in
It
probably when I'm
brings
having a
us
cup
up to
of tea
that. But
later.
talking about core values, because you were just talking about core
That's it.
values.
Yes.
So let me tell you about the first time I did my core values, and that might spark some with you because
Thank you.
I hadn't even looked at any of that, right up until I was about, yeah, back into 2004. So I was what, 35, 36 at the time, somewhere around that way.
Only a couple of
Somewhere,
years ago.
yeah, yeah, somewhere there, somewhere mid to late 30s anyway. And that's when I decided I wanted a career change. And how I got into coaching was because I was looking for a career change and run a business years before with my ex-husband. From when I was 19, it was a physical business. That finished when the relationship finished. So I went into employment, but I knew it wasn't what I really wanted to do. And
Mhm.
once I had become kind of more comfortable with my living surroundings, whatever, I thought, but it's time to look at my career. So I had some career coaching, but what it really brought up was a lot of the relationship stuff and and again, my identity. So that was when I
Mhm.
thought, I loved this. I want to be a coach. So I then went on, I did quite an in-depth 2-year life coaching and corporate coaching course. But through that, I did my core values. And one of the exercises that we did in that was my core values. And I literally sat there gobsmacked. The way that they did it as well was really kind of
Mm.
deep layers of really getting into it. And I remember sitting on the training thing and saying, that has just explained the last 30 years of my life.
Yeah, it's that
I was
powerful.
just absolutely gobsmacked. And then,
Yeah.
especially when I understood how, when you know your core values, you've got the three sides of the triangle. You've got you to you, you to you, you to others, and others to you. And they become imbalanced because you may be working and acting from that core value to other people. But if you're not receiving it back, then it's kind of out of alignment. But also if you're not giving it to yourself. And sometimes we look for other people to interact with us in a way that is good to our core values. And we do that outside, but we don't always give it to ourselves. And if
Yeah.
you're doing that, if you think of that in terms of a triangle, then it becomes unbalanced and skew whiff, doesn't it?
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, it kind of ends up being like a weird, odd.
yeah. So how
Yeah.
and so it's that pushing and pulling. But the piece that most of the time people forget is, where am I showing myself that core value? I'm showing
Mm.
it to other people.
Yeah. Where am I? Yeah, where am I? So, for example, when I did this, I mean, you did it a longer time ago than me, and which did, thank you, you did help me click into place because I was thinking I could really have done with knowing all of this stuff right back then in 2000 and whatever it was. And I realized that as I was doing, so it was a slightly different exercise to you. This was more of having a whole list of core values and then circling 10 or 15 that really jump out and then narrowing it down to five. And it's not that the others aren't important, it's just what's really jumping out right now. And then looking at those, I haven't got the questions or anything with me now, but there's a few journal prompts that I found really useful. Like, where am I? Like, say, for example, one of mine was integrity. Is that where am I out of integrity in my life? It could be personal relationships, it could be business, it could be with myself. And it was actually really, it highlighted just how many micro moments of the day that I was out of integrity with myself. I was misaligning myself with my whole life purpose, my whole path, all the abundance, the peace, the freedom that was available to me. I was unconsciously working against that every single time I was out of integrity. Every single time I was being dishonest. Every single time I didn't, because communication is one of my core values. Every single time I didn't communicate something that I was feeling, but pretending I was okay when I wasn't, maybe. And as I've slowly worked on these, I now see them, like a bit like a racetrack. They have the barriers to stop you going off. I don't know what they call.
Yeah.
Do you know what they're called? Bollard, well, not bollards, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Those
No,
what?
I know what you mean, but yeah,
Yeah, those thingies.
I don't know the word.
And I see them as those. I see them to help me stay on track, excuse the pun, and to help me really be in touch with myself in order for me to make better choices in those micro moments and learn from what has happened in the past in order to gift my future self something better as an experience, because I've now learned what my own parameters are and how to stay on track, if you like. It's not always been easy because it's stretched me now to have conversations that I've always found difficult. Otherwise, I would have done them anyway. It's forced myself to be more honest with myself and change, like you said, with your arrangements, change them last minute if that's what needs to happen, and to be okay with that, and to be okay with people being upset with me, etc., etc. So, core values for the listeners, if you haven't done it, it's brilliant, it's powerful, and it's so important for a pathway like this. So it sounds like we've had slightly different experiences, but very impactful.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I do it, it does, I mean, I know I've done core values with people. It does start off with that list and you reduce the list
Okay.
down and then you weigh them up and you kind of see where they are and where they sit and where they fit to make sure you've really got your absolute core values. And then there's different ways of looking them for decision making, for
Mm,
understanding what's going on for you and that sort of thing.
yeah,
Anyway, it's a very similar exercise. I think there's just a lot, there's lots of different things you can do around it to help
yeah,
you in everyday life as well. Yeah. But
yeah.
absolutely, once I knew what they were, I was
Mm.
just like, well, that explains why I've just done all of this,
Yeah,
all
exactly.
of this, because
It's
I
a
was
real,
striving for this.
yes, it's a real dot connector, isn't it?
Absolutely,
Yeah, it helps
absolutely.
everything to make sense.
Yeah, because then when you look at those core values as well, and you've got your core values, when you then look at the beliefs that surround those core values, then
Yeah,
you can start to look at, okay, how is that belief one that helps me, and or is that one that pulls me back and
yeah,
pulls me, because then that's like almost having, you've got the belief that's trying to, your core value that you want to propel forward with, but the beliefs are kind of, can sometimes be like rocks that are kind of holding them down and stopping them, and whether
yeah.
those, so then, yeah, I mean, whenever I've done kind of work, like whenever I do work like that, I'd start with core values, then look at the beliefs around those core values and the positives and the negatives and switching those up, because when you really say, well, what is my belief around that?
Mm. I love that.
Where has that come from?
You've just opened like another door. So thank you. I really love that because
You're more than welcome.
I haven't explored it to that degree. I would really like to. So thank you. What you're also sparking in my mind is, with everything, there's always the yin and the yang, isn't there? So let's
Yeah,
take a word like honest. There's the light honest, and then there's the dark honest, the positive honest and the negative honest, let's just say. So I
yeah,
guess everything is, am I, so if we take the word honest and we were to have a conversation, and, some people say, well, I'm just honest. And if I think you're shit, I'll tell you you're shit, or something like that. I would
yeah.
say that that's negative and hurtful, and a dark part of being honest. And I have heard people say that before. It always shocks me because, I think there's always kindness,
Yeah,
which,
yeah. And there's some empathy and some integrity around that. That's, yeah,
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I think, like with the core values, there is more work to do. There's a shadow side of doing the core values, which also needs to be looked at, because each core value will have its own positive and negative take, I guess.
yeah. Because it's a balance, isn't it? You've got, you can take each one of those. So, I've done, do work with people on the extreme. So, what's the extreme of that value in the positive? What's the extreme of that value in the negative? Where's the balance in the mid? Where's the
Yeah.
balance in the middle?
Mm,
And where is that affecting that? Because often we have things as well. We do have more than one core value. You've got, even if you've got your, usually it's kind of five, isn't it? You've got these five core values, but sometimes in order to achieve one, it has a negative effect on another one, because there's a
yeah.
hierarchy to them as well, isn't there?
Yeah. It's a whole new, I mean, maybe we just need to do an episode
Yeah,
completely
we
on
could do
that.
an episode on core
Yeah.
values.
I mean, if, like, for complete honesty and transparency to the listeners, we came in on this today. I know Susan and we have in-depth conversations, and there's a lot of wisdom. There's a lot I get from Susan. I'm assuming it's both ways.
Absolutely,
Thank
absolutely.
you. And there's so much that I always know that it's always going to go where it needs to go. But there was a part of it at the beginning. We went with the unplanned plan, for complete
Yeah.
transparency. Like, well, we just know that this is going to grow into what it needs to grow into. We'll share whatever it is that the listeners need to hear out there. And I did have a list of questions that I was going to ask you that we haven't even touched.
No,
So
because this is how our conversations always go.
they
Something
do.
starts something and we go, and
Would you
out
like
it comes.
one? Would you like one of the questions?
Go
Because
on, give me a
yeah,
question.
we're
Fire me a
46
question.
minutes in already,
I,
usually 45 to an hour, so I'll give you one of the questions. Let me have a little look then, because they were really good questions as well.
okay, well,
Okay, I think some of them we've probably covered anyway. Okay, so let's go with what parts of your old identity have you had to let go of in order to grow?
what parts of my old identity? The first one that comes up for me is the need to please. Absolutely, that's been a big one for me.
Mhm.
The need, the wanting to, the being the people pleaser, the fix it for everybody.
Yeah.
Because, one, you just can't sustain that. I've got to that part in my life. I've got to the age where I'm
It
like,
burns you
it's
out,
got to
right?
be me now. It's got to be just me. That doesn't mean I'm ignoring everybody else or would never help anybody else. But actually, that
Yeah.
it was no, no, off you go. You're not
Come
helping
on,
anybody
Chris,
ever
one
again.
more.
Okay.
And you're
But
like,
I've
"No,
got to put, but it's really about, but I was putting other people first all the time. And
balance,
for
isn't
my
it?"
own need, because really I was putting myself first, but it was coming from from a need in me that needed to do that in order to feel better about myself or good about myself or feel safe or secure. So, and I know we touched on some of that earlier in the conversation, but for
Yeah,
me, one of the biggest things that I have let go of as part of that identity is that need to do any of that.
yeah. And that is coming from a really wounded. I mean, I identify with that. I'm sure many of the listeners do. It's a wounded self that's looking and searching and having so much love for that part that had to use that kind of strategy to get its needs met, which gets you to a certain point, but then it stops you from breaking through to the next levels of the Sonic game. So kind of
Yeah,
circling back to that, because if we always do what we've always done, we're going to always get what we've always got. So when we become aware of how of our blind spots of how we might sabotage ourselves, it's not about us being bad or wrong. They were all coping mechanisms and much needed at the time, because
yeah,
many of us were brought up in environments which we didn't get these basic needs met to help us have high self-esteem and self-worth, etc., etc. So we're literally doing the best we can with the wisdom, the information, and the knowledge and the consciousness that we have. But so we didn't know that we didn't know. Now that we know that we didn't know, we get to see through the veil almost and begin that process of changing it. But it is an eye opener when you realize that whole people pleasing
yeah,
paradigm, isn't it?
absolutely. And I think another piece of that is when we do start to learn this stuff, when we do start to work through it, and we do see the difference that it can bring, and the change is amazing. Change can be amazing when we do see it. We almost want to say to everybody, "I found the door. Here's the door. Come on, quick!" And
Yeah,
we
yeah,
put everybody through it and push
yeah.
everybody through it, and it's almost like, yeah, I've got it. I know where it is. It's
I
over
know the
here. Come
answer.
on.
Yeah,
I know the
yeah,
answer. I know the answer. Come on. And with some people, we try to drag them. We try to push them. We're like, why
yeah,
are you not? I know I'm waving. You're not, and you're taking no notice. And
yeah,
then I think another part of that, of the letting go, is letting go of that bit and being
yeah,
able to go, I just get to just be me, just do me. And that will be the light. And those that need to see that light and those that will see the light will
mm,
see that. And it's
mm,
almost like I can just be the person that is doing the work, but it's
mm,
holding the candle. I've just got a little candle. I'm not trying to turn a big
yeah,
glaring spotlight on it and say, you're going the wrong way. You've got to come this way.
mm,
Yes, because kind of, in the work that we do, we're gently saying, look, it's something that you can look at and it's over here. But I found also in my personal, with people, not people that I've worked with, that have come to me for that work, because there are those that then say, I'd actually like to come. And I'm raising my hand and saying, I want to come that way. Can you
mm,
help me? Got me trying to drag people that don't,
yeah. And I think
or that
that's
aren't aware. And I've let go of that.
which, yeah, that's massive. And that reminds me of a reel I saw recently, and I wish I could remember the guy's name because he was so good. But talking about being the lighthouse versus the rescue boat. And
Yeah.
I was constantly out in the rescue boat trying to rescue people. I found the way. This is the way. I'd feel guilty that maybe I would have wanting more than them. So then I would overcompensate, or they were going through a struggle. I'd try and rescue them. I was an enabler and a rescuer. I was constantly out on that boat, weathered, beaten by the storms, resentful, kind of every now and then coming back to the lighthouse for a bit of food, going back out in my rescue boat again. And it's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting. So now it's more about being the lighthouse and just shining that light, and the right people who are meant to come, they will. And my whole nervous system just feels so much more relaxed being the lighthouse rather than this bleeding rescue boat.
Yeah.
But also, very interestingly, the people pleasing hormone is estrogen. And when a woman's estrogen drops at the kind of phases of life, like some people it starts from 30, some mid 40s or whatever it might be, we return to our behavior as far as all of that goes normalizes, excuse me, because the people pleasing hormone was one that kept us going and doing all of that stuff for so long. And now it's not there anymore. We're seeing the truth of how things have been, but we
That
don't have
so
that
much sense.
hormone pushing us anymore.
Sorry, that makes so much sense because it's almost like I got to that point and it's like, no, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. I would love to have known what your estrogen levels were at the time.
Well, that's it. I'm post-menopause now.
Yeah,
So
you're gone.
that's it. I'm 58. All of that is done. So, and now it's literally like, it's just me now. You just get on with it. I was
Yeah.
the portal, get on with it.
You're in your lighthouse having your cup of tea and all these
Yeah,
boats.
my cup of tea and saying I forgot to even look out the window.
Yeah, lovely. I love that. Susan, it's been so lovely to have you on here. Thank
It's
you. Well,
been lovely
I
to
want to
be
say
here.
my heart to yours. Thank you for everything you've done for me over the years. No doubt we'll be connected for the rest of this life and many more. And it's going to show in so many different ways. I'd love to have you back on at some point if you'd be happy to be a guest again. Very nourishing conversation, lots of wisdom. Thank you. Thank you for everything that you've done for me. Thank you for everything that you do for everyone else. Thank you for everything you do for yourself, which is equally as important. What's your biggest takeaway from today? And I'm going to ask you, I'm going to also share mine, but I invite the listeners to also think about what one thing has really stood out in this conversation.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on because we do have these amazing conversations and we're always saying we need to bring it out into form because it could, there's so much gold in there that could help other people. But also thank you for being everything you've been in my life as well. And I am so grateful to know you, to continue to know you and to be
Mm,
part of, and for what we have together. So
yeah.
and I really, really do love and appreciate you. My biggest takeaway, do you know, it's reminding me as well of the journey we've come on,
Mm.
reminding me of some of those little bits and being able to nurture ourselves. I'm definitely going to go out and get some more poplars
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Just tell me.
because I was really feeling that space for that. But yeah, it's just reminding me the journey. The journey is what the journey is as well. It's each person's individual thing, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It really is beautiful. It really is amazing. And when we're so open to it, it's exciting.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I would say it's probably been pretty similar, actually. My takeaway, I think, the let it go to let it grow was
Yeah.
something, that really stood out. Amongst other things, as well, and the biggest thing is like, how can I, excuse me, my own reminder, I've got really, I keep clearing my throat. I'm so sorry. Otherwise I'm going to end up sounding like, I don't know, Rod Stewart, which would be lovely, but probably not best for the podcast. Was, how can I make this easier for myself? Because I think, especially as women, we completely overcomplicate everything. But what then overcomplicates something already overcomplicated is our drivers, like we are talking about, the people pleasing, the need to feel wanted, the need to feel good enough, the need to belong, the need to feel important. It really drives us into a whole host of behaviors which are absolutely exhausting. And that's not to judge that aspect, it's to have that love and but go on a deeper healing journey if you're noticing that this is where you're at, and this is, something that I do pretty regularly. I'm going on at least a couple of times a year, very deep shadow dive. Not because I enjoy spluttering and snotting with all my tears and all my woes, but because I know there's so much that needs clearing. So it's the weeding and the seeding, which I think is also, an important takeaway to be
Yeah.
reminded of.
Exactly. And not to be too hard on ourselves either. It is a lot of it is a rite of passage. It is part of the journey. There's no
Yes.
jump to the other side of it. And
Mm. An initiation, isn't it?
yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this, you're probably ready to be initiated into your next level. So congratulations. I'd love to hear from you. So, if you want to send any feedback or an email or any questions off the back of this for myself or Susan, I'm going to put Susan's contact details in the show notes. So, but just for those that are listening and maybe can't look at the show notes for whatever reason, how can people contact you if they would like to do further work on some of the stuff we've spoken about today, or just explore the other bits and bobs that you do?
Yeah, so my website is susanfrancis.co.uk. And on there as well, I have got a free audio that people can download that, again, it's just something people can listen to on a walk or something like that. It's a conversation that can help people to just reset,
Mm.
something to help them to just see where they're at right now and to just be able to reset energetically, and return to self. It's called the Return to Self audio. And
Mm.
yeah, that's there free on my website, and you can just listen to it when you're on the treadmill, going for a walk or cooking dinner or something. And
I think that's
yeah,
quite significant with the topics today. Return
yeah,
to, yeah, exactly. Okay, my love. So again, I'll put those details in the show notes as well. And I'll be back with you the same time next week. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining, and bye for now. Thank you for tuning in to the Solaris Star podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you hit subscribe so that you never miss out. And you can stay connected with me on Instagram at Solaris Star. And for even more inspiration and explore my courses and coaching at solaristar.com. You deserve to live a deeply connected and fulfilling life. And it's only you that can make it happen.